Twisters, the long-awaited sequel to 1996's Twister. And after 28 years, we're finally getting it. Starring Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glen Powell.
If you feel it, chase it!
Welcome back to the Ecto Violence channel. My name is Alec. Today we're talking about Twisters. I'm a big fan of Twister. You can hear all my thoughts on it in this video here. And while I'm getting started here, why don't you go ahead and jump in the comments down below and let me know what you think of Twister, and if you already have seen Twisters, what you thought of it. And that being said, I'm going to get right into the positives. The cast and characters. So let's start off with Daisy Edgar-Jones. When she was first announced for this movie, I was actually pretty stoked. I'd only seen her in one movie, and up until seeing this today, it was still that way. That movie for me was fresh on Hulu, which, if you haven't seen, I highly recommend checking out. It stars Daisy Edgar-Jones and Sebastian Stan, and I'll just let you know it's a horror film. Our other big cast member is Glen Powell, who's sort of blowing up recently. For me, his big breakout that I first noticed him in was Top Gun Maverick, and that's probably for a lot of people, which I loved that movie, so I was also stoked for him in this. And let me tell you, these two characters are definitely the best part of this movie. I have my fair share of positives and negatives, but I have almost nothing negative to say about either one of these characters, other than a few cringy lines here and there. Also starring Anthony Ramos. He's sort of another main character, and this actor I remember seeing in a few movies. I had to look him up to see what they were. They were Transformers Rise of the Beasts, and I already forgot I had watched it till I was looking him up. And then he was in Godzilla King of the Monsters. I could see him going places, though. He's pretty good, too. His character's definitely less likable. Brandon Perry is in this. He's notable for being in Nope, which I absolutely loved. Nope. And I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on it, but I thought that movie was a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. Although the character he plays in this is a lot less likable, I think overall I'm going to leave him on the positives just because I liked seeing him again, because he was interesting in Nope. He was an annoying character in Nope too, so. Last character that I think is a big positive was David Cornsweet, who Wikipedia is describing as Javi's ex-boyfriend and business partner. I don't recall there being any sort of hint of that. Now Maxine just came out, and he was in Pearl, the movie that came out before that. And he's also going to be the new Superman. So that's pretty notable, and I think he did a good job of portraying the character that he was doing. There's a fair amount of references to the original movie. They're not super in your face. Some of them are obvious, like in the trailers, you're going to see, obviously, the red truck, right? That Glen Powell's driving around. In the trailers, you can see the outfit Daisy Edgar-Jones is wearing that looks like Joe's outfit. There's a lot of stuff like that where it just visually or plot and story-wise, there's a lot lifted from it, but there's also some expectations subverting, which I really enjoyed that. And if you paid enough attention to these trailers like I did, going frame by frame, because you're a huge Twister fan and a fucking geek, overall the plot is pretty cookie cutter for what you would expect from a Twister sequel. Initially, upon seeing the trailers, I was kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this plot of them like trying to stop a tornado. Like, what is that? Are scientists actually trying to do that? Is that a real thing? Because the original is based on actual science. That's how Michael Crichton wrote things. Now, it was definitely science fiction, but that's what made it science fiction, and not fantasy. I do appreciate this movie has a good amount of heart. Again, I really enjoyed the two main characters, so when it got down to just them together, it became an even better movie. And this is going to be a fun summer blockbuster that I think everybody's going to go see, because everybody remembers Twister. It's not one of those movies everybody has t-shirts of or they get tattoos of or anything, you know. But it's a movie in the 90s that was iconic. It was everywhere. It blew up. It was the summer movie. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the negatives. I can't say for certain, but there's definitely a lot less practical effects in this movie than the original. The original blends CGI and practical effects very well. There's unfortunately a lot of CGI in this movie because that's kind of how you gotta do these movies these days. I'm not blaming them for it, but it is a negative. Another negative is the lack of a connection to the actual first movie. Again, I mentioned there were a couple of references and things like that, and you could definitely tell, oh, this is the same universe for sure. There's something that confirms that. But there's not even like a photograph on someone's desk in the background with characters from the original movie or anything like that. Nothing like that. In fact, there's something really annoying about that, and this is the only spoiler I'm going to talk about, but spoiler warning. At one point, Daisy Edgar-Jones' character goes home for the first time in like 5 years. to see her mother, and we don't know who her mother is, and they kind of were shy about telling you Kate's last name, so you're like, ooh, who could this be? And we kind of already know that there's not going to be a real connection or anything, but still, then someone shows up and literally walks out of the shadows. You see a silhouette, and then they walk out of the shadows like it's a big reveal of who her mom is, and then it's just some woman. And you're like, oh, all right, what was the build up there? What? What's this? And if she hadn't been actually charmed by Glen Powell's character, this would have been straight up stalker behavior. I still don't know how he found her mom's place. Now, I'm not a country music fan. I definitely think the country music is fine in certain places in this movie. I think the character of Tyler Owens that Glen Powell plays, it definitely makes sense for him to be blasting country music and being obnoxious with it, especially the type of country music that he's playing. It works very well with his character, I get it. But I feel like that's the only place the country music should be. I feel like other than that, it should be a mix of stuff more similar to the original movie. And I think the score, while being good and doing a decent job in this movie, can't live up to the magic of that first movie. Nothing can. Not the cast, not the effects, not the music. That's one of those lightning in the bottle situations, and a lot of people might mention that if they have those feelings about the first Twister, which I do. Bill Paxton's son, James Paxton, actually has a cameo in this movie as a disgruntled hotel guest, so that's cool to see. A little bit of Bill in there, you know? Also, I went to AMC and I got myself a Twister's cup. A souvenir Twister's cup. Hey, it's not the best looking cup, but there's like a surprisingly small amount of Twister merchandise. They had a popcorn bucket too, but I just opted to get the cup. And if I'm going to think about rating this movie, I am obviously going to have to compare it to the original movie. The original movie, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 hearts. I did like this movie. Obviously, it's pretty much a reboot of the original. It's not quite a remake. It's definitely another version of the same story retold again. George Lucas says it best.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme. Every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
I definitely had a fun enough time with this movie. I might have even enjoyed it more because I had such a bad day before I went to go see this movie. I live in some really crappy apartments right now. I'll be moving out within the next month or two, but currently there's too many cars for the small amount of parking we have here, so I'm parked at the CVS across the street on some nights. And apparently my car was broken into last night because when I left to go to the theater today, my driver's side window was broken out. Luckily nothing was taken. My car was rifled through. So I missed the first IMAX showing of Twisters today at 4 o'clock and had to go to the 7 p.m. instead. I've just been dealing with a lot lately in my personal life. I normally don't talk about that much on this channel, but there was a fire in my apartment complex a few weeks ago too. And up until about 2 weeks ago, we didn't have any AC in the entire building. And some days it is over 100 degrees here. So I've been going through it. So if you're still watching, thank you for your support. And I'm gonna go ahead and rate this movie. What do we think? I'm gonna give a 3.5 out of 5 hearts. That's a full heart less than the original. But I think this movie really did try. The characters worked for me. Had the main characters not been as charismatic and interesting as they were, and I'd probably like it significantly less. I can say that I probably will rewatch this movie. I enjoy disaster movies enough that I like to rewatch them. This isn't one that I'm gonna immediately feel like I have to watch after watching Twister or anything, but I guarantee I'm gonna buy it when it comes out on physical media. If you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.